So in this screencast, we're going to look at complex conditions. And when I'm talking about complex conditions, what I'm talking about is combining two conditions together. So for example, using the or the and operators. So here we have things like if number is greater than 10 and number is less than 15, then we might do something. Or something like if number is less than 0 or number is greater than 20. So notice here we've got the and the or. So we'll just look at some examples. So if we're talking about the and operator or the condition, we've got the overall condition is true only if both conditions are true. So if we look at our example here where if number is greater than 10 and number is less than 15, let's look at some examples to see when it evaluates to true and when it evaluates to false. So if we have an example where our number is 8, then let's look at the two conditions separately and then put them together. So here we have number greater than 10. Well, 8 isn't greater than 10, so that is going to evaluate to false. Look at the second condition, which is number less than 15. Well, 8 is less than 15, so that's going to evaluate to true. But remember, the and is only true if both conditions are true. So in this case, our overall condition will be false. So again, if we're using this in an if statement, we might do something if both of them are true. Otherwise, we'll do something else. And we'll have a look at that when we do a project in a minute. We'll look at another example. So exactly the same condition, if number is greater than 10 and number is less than 15. So the example number here is number is 12. So let's look at our condition separately again. Is 12 greater than 10? Yes, it is. So that evaluates to true. Is 12 less than 15? Yes, it is. So that condition evaluates to true. In this case, both of our conditions are evaluating to true. So our overall condition is also true. And then the final example that we have is where our example number is 18. And in this case, is 18 greater than 10? Yes, it is. So that evaluates to true. Is 18 less than 15? Well, that isn't the case, so that evaluates to false. So our overall condition is false. So again, just reminding you, with the and, when you're using it, both conditions need to be true for the overall condition to be true. So we'll move on now to the or condition. So here we've got the overall condition is true if either condition is true. So let's look at an example here. We've got if number is less than 0 or number is greater than 20. So our example here is that number is -4. So again, let's look at each condition separately, see does it evaluate to true or false, and then we look at the overall condition. So is -4 less than 0? Well, that evaluates to true. Let's look at the second condition, which is -4 greater than 20. Well, that's false. But remember, when we've got an or here, an or statement, it is true if either condition is true. So we have our first condition is true, the second condition is false, so the overall condition is true. So in this case now our number is 12. So we're checking to see, is 12 less than 0? Well, that evaluates to false. The second condition, number greater than 20, is 12 greater than 20? That also evaluates to false. In this case, both conditions evaluated to false, so the overall condition is false. And then the last test case that we're looking at is where our number is 26. So again, let's test our conditions. 26 is not less than 0, so that condition evaluates to false. But 26 is greater than 20, so the second condition evaluates to true. And remember, it's an or statement, so we have got a false or a true, so in that case, the overall condition is true. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to implement these examples in a simple project on makecode.com. So I'm going to do one for the and one for the or, just so you can see the two of them separately. So we have a new project here. I'm just going to get rid of the forever because I don't need it. I'm going to create a variable called number. And in the onStart, I'm going to set number to 8. So I'm just using my first test case. Now I'm going to go to input and I'm going to say on button A pressed. And this time I want to check to see if. So I'm going to do if then else. And I'm going to go back into logic and I'm going to use my or block here. So I pull across the or and just drop it in there. And now what I want to do is I want to create two conditions here. So I'm going to do, the first one is, we had said if number is greater than 10 or number is less than 15. So I'm going to pull across the less than and put it into the second one. And I'm going to go back in and I'm going to pull across the less than and put it into the first one. Now remember here, I'm saying if number is greater than, so I'm going to change the less than to a greater than here. And then I'm going to go into variables. I'm going to pull across my number and just drop it in here. So now I'm saying if number is greater than 10 or number is less than 15. And what I'm going to do in this situation is I'm going to just go to basic here. I'm just going to show a simple icon. So I'm going to show a happy face. So if the number is greater than 10, and sorry, I should be using an and here. So I'm just going to change the or to and. So I'm saying if the number is greater than 10, just make this a little bit smaller so you can see the full condition. So if number is greater than 10 and number is less than 15, then I'm showing a happy face. Otherwise, I'm going to show a sad face. So I'm just going to pull across this icon. So here I'm just going to show a sad face. So we'll just test this now by pressing the A button. What we should see is a sad face, because remember 8 is not greater than 10, so that evaluates to false. The second condition is going to evaluate to true because 8 is less than 15, but the overall condition is going to be false, so I should see my icon of a sad face. So click A and I get my sad face. I'm now just going to change the value here to 12. I'm going to restart the simulator, press the A button again, and this time I get a happy face because remember 12 is greater than 10 and it's less than 15, so I'm getting a happy face. And I'm going to change it and make it 18 here. So when I set number to 18, this time round, 18 is greater than 10, but it's not less than 15, so I should see a sad face again. So click on A and I'm seeing a sad face again. So that's just a very simple example with the AND operator in there. So I'm just going to call that AND example and save it, just to keep track of it. And then I'm going to create a new project, and I'll just go through the exact same thing just for the OR block, just to remind you and to refresh it in your mind. So here I'm going to get rid of the forever again. I'm going to create a variable and I'm going to call it number and click OK. And I'm going to set number to, so in this case I'm going to set number to -4 to start off with. I'm going to go into input and I'm going to say on the button A pressed, well I need to do an if statement again. So I'm going to do if true, and then I'm going to go in there and I'm going to use my OR here. So I'm just going to drop that in. Now notice here in the logic, the last time round in the last project, I pulled across the OR and changed it. These are pretty much identical. You can either choose the OR and change it to AND if you want, or you can take the AND and again you can get from the AND to the OR. They're just pretty much the same block. It's just whichever one shows on that particular one. I'm also going to go back into logic. So this time, remember, I want a less than to start off with, because I want to say if number less than 0, or, and I want another logic block here, and this time I want to say if number is greater than 20. So again, I go to my variables block, pick my number, drop it in. So I'm saying if number is less than 0 or number is greater than 20. Then I'm going to, again, go back to basic, and I'm just going to do the same thing. I'm just going to show a happy face if the whole thing is true. Otherwise, I'm going to show a sad face. So pull across my show icon again and go for a sad face. So now I'm going to do my testing. But before I do, I want to make sure I know what I'm supposed to get here. So remember, -4, I'm going to test it against the first condition. So -4 is less than 0. That evaluates to true. -4 is not greater than 20. So this second condition is going to evaluate to false. But the overall condition will be true. So I should see a happy face. So here. So why am I seeing a sad face when I should be seeing a happy face? Well, I'm going to have to debug and go back and see what is happening here. And actually, I can see my problem here. I didn't change the item to number, so it's checking item rather than number. So here I'm going to try it again. So now I've set number to -4. So I'm going to test it here, and I see my happy face. Now I'm going to set the value of number to 12. So 12 is not less than 0, so that's going to evaluate to false. It's also not greater than 20, so that's going to evaluate to false. And the entire thing is going to be false, so I'm going to see my sad face. So click the A button, and I see my sad face as I expect. And then the final test I'm doing is I'm going to set the number to 26. Click out of it, and then I'm going to click on the A button again. 26 is not less than 0, so the first condition is going to evaluate to false, but it is greater than 20, so the second condition evaluates to true. And remember, with the OR, if either condition is true, the entire condition is true. So this time when I press the A button, I should see a smiley face again. And that's exactly what I've got. So this screencast really was just talking you through complex conditions and allowing you to work through the OR and the AND statements. Now, another thing that you can do is, I'll just show you here, if I have a logic and I can just bring across an if then here. So I'll just pull that across there. And then I can bring in an OR, but I can also bring in another OR in here. And then I can put in 3 different conditions. And remember, this entire condition will be true if any one of those is true. So that's one way of doing it. And then you can also obviously do it for AND. So you can have 2 ANDs, or you could even put another one here. So it's possible to connect them up, but the more complex you make your conditions, the more difficult it can be to find problems if you do run into problems with them. If it ends up, showing a true when you think it should be a false, or showing a false when you think it should be a true. So you need to be a little bit careful when you're doing that. But I just wanted to make you aware that that's what you can do. So I hope you found this useful.